welcome back. Today we're going to be addressing some comments made by Lena Dunham, which if anything gives me a valid excuse to absolutely rail on her for some of her truly despicable actions and ideas. And before we get started, I'm rather peckish. Oh, sandwich wench. I can't think of anything more appropriate than to have a very creepy person make me a sandwich down in my kitchen when talking about Lena Dunham. A very, very creepy person. Big thanks to Leon Bronstein for that. Go subscribe to her channel, link below. Now let's get into this article. Anytime Lena Dunham is trending online these days, it's typically for some headline-making political comment. Well, it is rather fortunate then that the US election is over. It is of course rather unfortunate that Lena Dunham has received a feckload of criticism because she has failed to honour her agreement where she said she would leave the United States if Donald Trump won. That's a shame, and a very early sign for the kind of integrity this young lady has. Now she can go back to making bold statements and not backing them up with any kind of work whatsoever. However, the girl's creator seems to have taken it too far for some people this time around. Some people is putting it very mildly. Based on current statistics, it's safe to assume you managed to piss off virtually all of those that are anti-abortion as it is. That's not to say for 1 second those that are pro-choice thought what you said was in good taste, and you can be sure quite a lot of them think you're an absolute barnstorming thunder cunt right now. On her podcast, Women of the Hour, the 30-year-old actress tackled the topic of abortion, saying that although she hasn't had one, she wished she had. Now this is where context is very important. So I'm going to play the clip where she goes into detail how she came to such a marvelous conclusion.
Something I've thought about a lot is the fact that there is stigma around abortion. We all know that. I always thought that I myself didn't stigmatize abortion. I'm a abortion rights activist. It's a huge part of who I am. But one day, when I was visiting a Planned Parenthood in Texas a few years ago, a young girl walked up to me and asked me if I'd like to be a part of her project in which women share their stories of abortions. I sort of jumped. I haven't had an abortion, I told her. I wanted to make it really clear to her that as much as I was going out and fighting for other women's options, I myself had never had an abortion. And I realized then that even I was carrying within myself stigma around this issue. Even I, the woman who cares as much as anybody about a woman's right to choose, felt it was important that people know that I was unblemished in this department. So many people I love, my mother, my best friends, have had to have abortions for all kinds of reasons. I feel so proud of them for their bravery, for their self-knowledge, and it was a really important moment for me then to realize that I had internalized some of what society was throwing at us, and I had to put it in the garbage. Now I can say that I still haven't had an abortion, but I wish I had.
Not so long ago I did a video response to Francesca Ramsey where she mentions feminist credentials. On this list of credentials to be a good intersectional feminist is having an abortion on there, because I can think of a whole host of people who wouldn't do it just to be called a feminist. I also don't think somehow it reinforces your ability to be one. Then again, this is nothing more than glorified virtue signalling. A desperate attempt to fit in or understand something to the point where you can say you understand something someone else can't, and empathize with people who have been through something that no one should have to go through. I'm not now saying people shouldn't have abortions. I'm saying the emotional aspect is traumatizing enough. For whatever reason someone has had to have an abortion, there is an emotional element that you can't relate to just because you want to have one to say you've had one. It denigrates what they've gone through and does not mean for a second you understand them at all. You go ahead and make light of abortions as a whole as if it's some kind of badge of honor. It's not up there with STDs, I promise you that. I wonder how long the media and whoever you know that is so powerful that you're able to be protected and shielded in such a way that the only people who are able to criticize criticize you are the supposed trolls of the internet, who are then themselves criticized for being online trolls, while their opinions are being ignored and swept under the rug, even though the majority are valid, before you are finally made irrelevant. I guess it'll be round the time your show ends. Let's face it, the media has done a great job somehow ignoring the fact that you abused your sister and did things in front of your sister that, let's face it, could have scarred her for life. As if it wasn't bad enough that you made a promise to leave the country if Trump won, and you reneged and then bleated on about internet harassment in your little Instagram post about it. But then you completely, absolutely show just how utterly ridiculous you are, how stupid you are. You may have issued an apology later, but I guarantee it wasn't by you. It was probably your publicist at best, urging you, begging you to do this, just because you actually stepping up and admitting that that's probably something you shouldn't want to be proud of, because of the number of people who have gone through it and suffered, or not being able to have kids. You're 30. You are not in a position where you have to worry about having kids, because it may be too late or you may not be fertile. Whereas there are people at your age who can't have kids, and the option's been taken away because maybe they had to have an abortion. Now I just want to go back to the subject of internet trolls for a moment, because I did notice the Twitter sphere lighting up with this particular subject. So I want to now read a few of the tweets to you that were directed to Lena Dunham, and I am curious as to whether or not any of these people were blocked by her after. I tried to give Lena Dunham the benefit of the doubt, but between the abortion comment and some of her clothing choices, it's tough. I don't think Lena Dunham represents the left. She represents what the left hates about people who claim to represent the left. It is with a heavy heart that I must announce Lena Dunham is at it again. By the way, this comedian, no joke, in 2006 when I was at university, he was the comedian on stage at Christmas and he made me wrestle a rugby player in a Santa suit. That guy beat me into the ground. Thank you, Patrick Monahan, you cunt. Lena Dunham wishes she had had an abortion. This woman is cancer on our culture. I can't even imagine how offensive Lena Dunham's comments are to women who actually had to go through abortions. Lena Dunham almost made it a month without saying something dumb as fuck. Why is psycho Lena Dunham still in the US? Why are liberals obsessed with murdering their offspring? She wishes she had an abortion. Sick. Stop giving Lena Dunham platforms. And my favourite, Naked Ape. I wish Lena Dunham's mum had an abortion, and I wish I had a time machine so I could go back to the moment just before she was conceived, walk up behind her father and say, pull out. Now, just before we finish this, I want to make it abundantly clear. I'm not a fan of your work. I'm not a fan of what you do. I'm not a fan of what you say. You are not funny. You are not intelligent. And you clearly have been raised wrong. Some of the things you preach could be considered admirable to some, but even those that you consider ally have rallied against you and been openly critical of some of the nonsense you've spewed. You, as a feminist, do bad by the word feminist and are being called out for it. You should be ashamed. Saying sorry isn't going to be enough. I hope this one lingers this time, because some of the things people have had to do to make other things disappear that should not disappear, like, I don't know, marbles, let's say marbles, is astonishing. Just before we finish, I want to play a small clip by Trigger Tots McGee. Go subscribe to her channel, she's awesome. Thank you all for listening.
You should never want to have an abortion. An abortion should be the last thing on your mind. There are so many preventative measures out there. There's birth control, condoms, spermicide. There are so many resources available that can prevent you from having to get an abortion. And I know that shit happens that is beyond your control. And I understand that. But the fact that you sit there and say that you want to experience something like this, and I don't understand why. There are so many women out there who will completely disagree with you and fight you tooth and nail over what you have said, because it is so wrong. Because you have trivialized every experience every other woman has had when it comes to this particular issue.